Hey everyone, Connor Cushman here with Cushman Homes and the Gates Real Estate Group in North Georgia, a local realtor and investor in the area. Want to show you a couple of tools that I use to analyze potential short-term rental investments. As you can see on my screen, I've got a property pulled up here. This one hit the market today. I'm always watching the market for new properties and using several different tools to make sure I'm seeing stuff as soon as it hits the market. This is the realtor.com listing with photos. You can see that it's somewhat of a non-traditional color, but definitely has the log look. So the first thing I'm doing as I look at a potential short-term rental is I'm looking at the pictures to see what kinds of big expenses I might have as far as renovations go. Does it already have a hot tub? Is it likely that it's wired for a hot tub if it already has one? Is the hot tub, does it look like it's in good shape? Keep in mind that a hot tub replacement or install, if it's new, can cost you around $10,000 in the market today. So that's a big one. I'm also looking at the furniture and the decor. I'm checking the listing description to see if it's coming furnished or not. That's a huge out-of-pocket delta as far as do I need to completely decorate and furnish. In this case, there's a lot of decorations I would want to get rid of, so that's going to be a big project, but some of the furniture looks nice. So those are a couple of the key things I'm looking at. The appliances look good. And obviously I'm going to verify this stuff in person as an agent, but for long distance investors, you're either going to lean on your agent and a video, or you're going to have to go visit the property and do that quickly when a good property hits the market. This property overall, right out the gate, looks pretty good. It's priced at $460, 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,800 square feet, and it's in LJ. LJ is a slightly inferior location to Blue Ridge in the Blue Ridge region, but these properties in LJ can still do very well. This particular property is in a unique location, a little bit away from where I would typically look at and see properties pop up. So it's actually a really interesting one. So this is kind of my initial screen. I'm looking for furniture, decor, quality of the place, and overall style. And this one definitely checks a lot of boxes. It's on 2.5 acres, so a lot of potential there. One of the things you don't know by looking at the listing description is this in a neighborhood that is short-term rental friendly? Is it going to be accessible to guests? Things of that nature that you actually have to go and see in person, because that can totally kill the deal. But assuming it's a doable property, it checks a lot of the boxes so far. One of the things I'm going to do is kind of analyze annual rental revenue projections. And there's a couple of ways that I can do that. The first and the most commonly known is probably using AirDNA Rentalizer. So you search AirDNA Rentalizer in Google, first link takes you to this free rental property calculator. I'm going to take the address, plug it in here, 3-bed, 3-bath. On a 3-bed, 3-bath, I could accommodate probably 8 to 10. I'll do 8 to, you always kind of want to be somewhat conservative in your calculations. It does make you log in. And then I'm gonna have to research the address here. Don't know why it makes me do that. The UX has changed a little bit recently, so I'm going through some clunkiness here, but I'm finally getting to where I can kind of set my address, my criteria. I'm gonna do 8 guests, update that. And it's gonna spit out an annual revenue projection along with average daily rate and occupancy rate. Now, I use this as like a first estimate and screen. I'm immediately a little bit skeptical. I will say right out the gate, this looks much higher than I would anticipate for an LJ address, but This is an initial screen and makes me actually intrigued to continue digging and evaluating this property. Because while I think these are high estimates, and generally the AirDNA estimates can skew a little high, this is a good sign. Other addresses that you throw in, even in the LJ region, and other addresses might actually spit out something in the 30 to 50K range. So the fact that it's spitting this out, it's probably pulling from, AirDNA scraping properties across the region and in a locale, and then spitting out kind of a projection based on performance of other properties. I would recommend, if you're serious about this, and you're getting close to evaluating a property, paying the money to actually get a more detailed report where you can look at all sorts of kind of more detailed and granular data around, where is this insight coming from. But if you're kind of just starting out, or you've already paid for different reports and you already have some more confidence around the market, you could probably get away with using this as a strong data point to continue the evaluation. The next tool that I like is data.rabu. And again, I'm going to put the address in here. And I think what we'll find when we go here is we're going to see a different story. So data.rabu, what it does is it pulls up comps that are close and shows you the occupancy and revenue. Now, these numbers are for like the coming month, right? So it's kind of using a monthly revenue projection based on like the most recent month. And I'd have to do some more digging around like how does it do the seasonalized revenue projection. But what I like about data.rabu is you can actually click into the individual properties that it's pulling from and show you their calendars, show you their pricing and availability. So this one's interesting. It's 2.5 miles away. You can look at the pictures. It's a nice looking property. But that one is doing, that one's doing 53% occupancy, revenue of 3,200 for on a monthly basis. So now what I think you're missing here is again, it's kind of a snapshot in time of like the current month. And so you wouldn't necessarily want to forecast that out, that you're only going to see 36K for the year, because we're in October. We're in September, October, which is maybe a little bit quieter than like a June, July. So, but I think it helps you get a little more granular and kind of get a more confidence level around like nightly rates and occupancy nearby, right? Again, though, I think if you were to take this property and run it against an investment property calculator to come up with your total costs and kind of find your break-even point, these numbers would probably still be encouraging to say, I think this is worth looking at even deeper, right? As you kind of mix this insight with the AirDNA insight. And then the last step that I would say is going to actual Airbnb's search platform itself and just searching in your locale for random weekends and looking at calendars of like properties. So similar process to data.rabu, but you're actually kind of manually going through, sifting through the properties, reading reviews, and just getting familiar with what types of nightly rates and looking at the calendars of these properties. So if I search, this is just a couple weeks out, so there's not a lot of availability. But if I were to look at like a November weekend for 6 guests in LJ, this one's kind of a bad example because I thought this was kind of a funny property with 3.2 stars, which is not great, and it's hosted by Evolve. So just a little data point for you if you're considering Evolve as your management company. I was reading some of the reviews on this one. It looks like just bad expectation setting with pictures and such. So, but you can, as an example, you can go in here and you can look at the calendar and see, okay, this one's got a couple of weekends bookings in October. We've got Christmas already booked. And again, this is another example, not to get too in the weeds here, but of maybe bad management by Evolve, that they're already booked to Christmas, which could be a good thing, but it's likely that they're priced too low and someone snatched up a 4-day booking over Christmas when you probably want to be getting a week-long booking on a property this size. So just another example of being careful about how you manage and who you let manage your property. But a good example of kind of nightly rates, and you could see that, for this property, you're seeing $150 a night in November, which is not a good example, not great. But let's go to one that's maybe a little better of an example. You've got a 3-bed, nicely decorated and managed. This cabin looks pretty new. Looks great. So now I'm going to go to the calendar and I can see that he's getting, he or she, I think it said Dominic, $250 per night. If I toggle the dates here, I can see they got Thanksgiving and Christmas as well as New Year's already. They've got a bunch of weekends in October and a full week-long booking in October, and it looks like they're rented this weekend as well. So that's a good sign. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 days in October. So they're already at about 35% occupancy for October. And they've still got some time to get closer to 50 to 60%. And if I look at these weekend rates, $250 a night. So you can take that $250 a night and come up with a conservative occupancy rate and say, hey, I can kind of forecast over the course of a year that I'm going to see a 50% occupancy rate at $250 a night. And what does that number come out at? And so these are just different data points that you gather to kind of run some different scenarios, come up with a break-even point analysis, and come up with some conservative estimates, and then also kind of take into account how you'll decorate, how you'll furnish, how you'll advertise, and also understanding that this is just Airbnb. So are you going to also post the property on Vrbo and other platforms to boost your bookings? Are you going to run ads and things like that? So all ways to boost your booking, your occupancy, and your rates, and come up with a good revenue projection for yourself. So I hope that helps. Those are a couple of the ways that I get started as I'm starting to get familiar with the market and evaluate a property. And there's more detail that you can get into over time as you get more comfortable with the market. But this is a great place to start. Hope that helps. Talk soon.